Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everyone's a special guest. I'm joined by the good council member of City of Fairfax, Anthony Amos, also a George Mason alum. And, we're just going to have a great conversation today about getting involved, civic engagement, the world of politics. But before we get started, Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, thank you. I'm honored to be here. So Anthony Amos, first-time council member, newly elected. So got elected in 2024 after receiving my master's in public policy over at the Schar School. Very excited to be here. Been working on some fun stuff. Happy to chat about that, my time at Schar. A little bit more about me. So my dad, I'm an Army brat. So my dad was in the service. My mom's an Eritrean immigrant, so she went over to Germany. That's where they met. And yeah, so that's how that link made. And then I popped up into the world, and next thing you know, it's been a fun journey. Spent some time in Germany, Hawaii, Missouri, and now Virginia. Fairfax is my home.
So how many years service?
So my dad served for 23.
Okay, my dad was 30.
Right on.
What was his final ranking when he retired?
Captain.
Okay, my dad was a colonel.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
crazy. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Gelnhausen, Germany.
Okay.
It used to be a military base, and they shut it down. So
mine was Landstuhl. I was born in Landstuhl.
Oh, yeah.
Landstuhl, Germany. So, I know about that military brat-wise. So go through, I like that because I know mine real quick. It was Germany, Fort Belvoir, Fort Riley, Kansas, back to Alexandria, Fort Rucker, Alabama, back to Alexandria. What was your growing up trajectory, if you can put it on that list of order?
Yeah, if I put it on like a little checklist, and I'm grateful that I didn't have to move as much as some of my friends did.
Yeah, me too.
So Gelnhausen was where I was born, then ended up in Fort Lost in the Woods, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay.
Then moved back to Germany after that to Wiesbaden.
Okay.
And then after Wiesbaden, Baumholder, where I finished high school. After that...
Where's that high school?
So Baumholder High School's in Germany.
Okay, got you. Back in Germany. Okay.
Yeah, and then after Baumholder, we ended up moving to Hawaii, where I was at Schofield.
Okay.
And that's where I got my bachelor's at, then transitioned here to get more involved in politics.
Now, with that transition, you're going to undergrad in Hawaii. What was the decision to come to George Mason in the first place?
So it was a few different things happened that lined up. I originally when I started my bachelor's program, I was actually looking at immunology. I was going to study disease and
public health. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I had a political science professor who kind of steered my course a little bit and told me that there's more than one way to help the world. And so I realized that I had maybe some talent for public service. I had already been volunteering for a number of years, decided to go the political route. And then when 2020 hit and the pandemic hit, my dad was already planning on making a transition. He was going to leave Hawaii, probably to Virginia. Mm-hmm. They were moving to Centerville.
Okay.
And, my little brother was still young at the time. I wanted to spend more time with him. And also, being that Northern Virginia was so close to D.C., I figured there'd be a lot of political opportunities here. And I knew that I wanted to continue my education. I wanted to keep working on my master's and move forward with that. And I did take a gap in between so I could work, save up some money, and also just transition with the pandemic like a lot of folks were at the time. Yeah. And so when I got here, looked around at colleges, and I just saw all the accreditations and all the incredible work George Mason was doing, especially in the political field. So. Yeah.
So I love that. What you said I was already doing volunteering. What were you doing volunteering before Schar School?
Oh, that's a long story.
Maybe just the cliff note, was it Boy Scouts or something?
Oh, so NAACP was a big one.
In Hawaii?
In Hawaii and here.
They had a Hawaiian chapter.
Yes, sir. So I was the student liaison over there. That's how I first became affiliated with the NAACP under Alfonso Braggs. Yeah.
Was it like the University of Hawaii chapter, or was it the Honolulu chapter? Which one was it?
So they have a Hawaii chapter, and then I was a student liaison on my campus for them.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. And so under Alfonso Braggs, I remember in 2018, I went to, was it 2017? It was 2018. I actually got to meet Bill Clinton at the NAACP convention they had in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was an interesting time, but I met so many incredible people. and I had been doing volunteer service with Special Olympics, with League of Women Voters, became more affiliated with them, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and plus I formed my own organization at the time. It was called Leaves of Opportunity. It was
In Hawaii.
In Hawaii, it was a student group. We did everything from doing donations of food and clothing to homeless encampments.
Yeah.
We did poetry readings and a focus on literary arts. We did a kind of a mix of everything, but it was all focused on service and giving back.
Yeah, so you had that, so that was that experience. And then, so as you transition, you move to Centerville, you're getting acclimated to Northern Virginia. What did you do in that gap year before coming back to Shar School?
So my first job in Virginia, I was a car salesman.
Okay.
And so I was a car salesman for about a month, realized I was not a fan.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. And then I ended up becoming an escape room manager.
Yes.
And I became affiliated with escape rooms in Hawaii. Actually, one of my first jobs was as a game master. And so I loved working in an escape room. I love escape rooms in general. And so I was looking for an opportunity, and things aligned. God made it happen, and I ended up becoming a venue manager over at Escapology at Fairfax Corner.
So you actually got into the escape room space in the Fairfax area. I seen that, the one in Fairfax Corner next to the movie theater.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that was it. And then while you were working there, and I see that you went, you was like, wow, all these different programs, besides the accreditation, I'll be totally transparent. You could go to Georgetown. That's in the heart of DC. You can go to GW. What was the things that stood out about George Mason for the master's program?
Well, it was a few different things. Diversity was a massive, massive component of that. I've always grown up, and partially because of the military, I've always grown up in diverse communities.
Yes.
And so that was a big thing that I wanted to not only have the ethnic diversity, but also the political diversity. I've actually worked for both political parties. So I've worked for I worked for Democrats in Hawaii, and then my professor who got me into politics said, "I want you to be a balanced person." So he wanted me to work for Republicans when I got to Virginia to kind of have that counterbalance.
Well, it's also, very different. I think like Democrats, let me phrase, on that spectrum, I'm pretty sure Hawaiian Democrats are different than Virginia Democrats.
100%.
And vice versa. Hawaiian Republicans are different because of probably the issues, land and home ownership in Hawaii issues are different than Virginia. But I do agree that diversity of perspective is a form of diversity.
And even if you compare Northern Virginia to the rest of Virginia,
yeah, we're not the same.
It's completely different.
No, they're like, they already said, if they're talking about that gerrymandering, and they're like, Northern Virginia should be its own state. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
but so that
I'm sure
perspective,
that would go well for funding the rest of the state.
Yeah. So you got that diversity of experience. Go ahead.
Yeah, so diversity of experience was a big part of that, and the political diversity. You have Ann Holton, former Secretary of Education, teaching a course.
Yep.
You have Mike Pence teaching a course.
Yep.
You have everything between the Shar School and the overlap with the Scalia Law School. So you have all these different components that just add into what I would consider a very holistic educational experience.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I had here.
So while you were going to school, and you're getting your master's, were you still working at the Escapology place?
No. So I worked at the Escapology place in between, and then I actually ended up getting a job with Fairfax County government.
That's about okay. So you transitioned. I want to talk. Yeah, you were like, okay, now I'm in this. I'm going to dive into politics. You wanted, while you were in grad school, to get more involved.
Yeah, so I worked on some political campaigns, and while I was working at the escape room, nothing major, just door knocking stuff.
Yeah.
And then, interestingly enough, one of the supervisors, their deputy chief of staff, did an escape room, and she actually remembered me.
Yeah.
And so when I ended up meeting them at some point during a campaign event, she remembered how welcoming I was and my hospitality, and that I was really good with people, but that I was also managing and overseeing this place that had been struggling during the pandemic, and now it's doing extremely well. And so when I went in for the interview, that actually played a factor in me getting my first salary position with Fairfax County government.
So you're Fairfax County government. And then while you were getting that experience with Fairfax County government, you were now in the classes. where you're starting to see the connections between what you're learning, and now you're like, wow, this is the real world of politics. This is
Yes.
the behind the curtain. Talk a little bit about that experience working for Fairfax County government while taking classes.
Yeah, it was interesting because my position shifted a little bit. When I first started, I was focused on health and human services and housing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, a member of the staff was leaving who was responsible for land use and permitting and
Mm-hmm.
zoning. And so I ended up taking over that role. And I was able to directly connect that with some of the courses I was taking, especially when you're talking about data center policy,
Yeah.
environmental policy, all the talk of red tape and bureaucracy. Seeing that in action and kind of coinciding together, I had the real world experience I could apply to my papers.
Yep.
But I also learned from the folks who I had the courses with, from my professors, and was able to bring that with me into my job. And that carried the whole way through for the 2 years that I was doing my master's program.
I'm not really. I remember when you ran for. Did you run for city council while you were still in grad school?
No, I
Or you waited?
announced.
Let me, because I want to see that timeline. Like you're like, all right, now I'm gonna take it to the next step.
Yeah, so I got my master's in May 2024, and I announced a couple weeks after I graduated. So
Okay,
so early June 2024 was when I made the announcement I was running.
And that was for that 2024 election in November.
Correct.
So it's kind of accelerated.
It was.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, from
It's
inception to okay, I'm about to graduate concurrently. Now I want to how did that kind of seed plant in your mind?
So I graduated, and my original plan was I was going to hang out, spend time with my then girlfriend, now wife. We were just going to do us, travel for the summer. I was going to go see my mom in Germany. We'd already bought tickets.
Okay.
And then right before I was going on that trip, some folks from the city reached out to me. They said there's some open seats on city council, your volunteer experience, your experience in local government, my master's from George Mason. They thought that I would be a great fit for city council. And
you already lived there, right?
And I already lived in the city.
Because you had to live in the city to be on
Exactly.
council. Okay.
And admittedly, I was a little worried about that in the beginning, especially it was 2024 presidential year, which meant my name was going to be on the same ballot as Trump and Kamala. And I was like, well, at the time, Biden and Trump. And I was like, do I really want that smoke? I was like, do I really want to deal with that? But I went to Germany and I had a heartfelt conversation with both my mom and my wife. And my wife told me something that I just never forgot. She said, if you don't go for it, you'll regret it.
Yeah.
She's
Why
like,
not? Shoot your shot.
Yeah, you'll regret not at least trying. And so when we got back, it was straight to work. Had to get my paperwork all in order, get all my petition signatures in 2 weeks. And then I announced, and 6 months later, ended up winning.
I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I know that's maybe our brains are different, but because I was like, if I saw that I was on the same ballot as Trump and what'd you say, Biden?
Biden at the time.
Yeah, I'd have been like, ain't nobody like paying attention to me. Like that's a bit, it's like all the attention's on the major national election, and I can slip in. It's not like because Virginia, for those that don't know, we have elections every year. So maybe certain years you are the main attraction, like you are the like the main card, right? Like like in fighting. But ain't nobody really watching the undercards that often. You know what I'm saying? So I could kind of do my thing. But you had the opposite. You were like, I'm on the same thing. I might be on the same attention as the national election.
The interesting thing is, to your point, the presidential campaign and all that stuff, that was on the front of the ballot. You actually have to turn the ballot over to vote for us.
You were a second pager.
Yeah,
second chill.
Second pager. Yeah, man. But I didn't know that at the time. I had never run for office before, so I think that was some of the anxiety that came with it.
100%.
And and I would say this during my council career too, but a part of it was finding myself.
Yeah.
And what did I believe in? What did I truly value? Because I worked for both parties, and I was like, where am I on things?
Yeah.
And so I'm going around door knocking, talking to people. I have my close group, and I'm forming these opinion pieces and policies that I wanted to publish. And it was a defining experience for myself on, okay, who am I at this point in time, and where do I want to go?
I was wondering, I mean, I just thought about this outside. I don't know if they do this, but like, I would think like who I am, like having an exercise is go through every single issue and kind of just like on a piece of paper and say, where would you stand so that you can start building your platform? I don't know. I just thought about that. Like, how do I feel about guns? How do I feel about housing? How do I feel? And just kind of go through that, reproductive rights. And like, not to say like it's Democrat or Republican, but like as a campaign, I need to make sure that I know my stance on all these issues, like a little T-chart or something.
Yeah, but part of it was I didn't want to be, and I'm air quoting, but like standard politician.
Yeah.
I was running for a local seat. I wanted to focus on local policies and things that I actually could decide on.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, I wanted it to be, I didn't want to just say I support affordable housing. I wanted people to know what specifically am I talking about.
Yeah.
Affordable housing can mean so many things. You have people who are, anti-tax increases that in theory support affordable housing, but affordable housing for single family homes, not
Yeah.
apartment
So,
not apartment
so
renters.
it's like a Venn diagram, like layers to it, layers to the issue and subgroupings.
I wanted to be specific about what I envisioned for the city, what policies I want to support, and where I think we should be going. That way people knew there was no question about where I stand on things. Here's the thing. Council a few years ago, that race, if you asked everyone who ran, they all supported affordable housing. But if you also look at our voting histories up to this point, that you could notice some inconsistencies with, well, they didn't support this affordable housing project that was submitted, but they want to keep the real estate tax rate very low. So affordable housing could mean so many things, and I realized the same goes for environment.
Everything, all these issues.
Yeah, so I didn't want to contribute to that. I don't want to be, I support the environment, but then not share policies with people that I actually wanted to work on.
So I would assume it took a lot of homework. How did you just go down the rabbit hole and look at old meeting minutes or something like that to see issues and vote? Like you just said, like I saw from my research, they voted this way. So talk a little bit about that homework.
It was,
and then for that point, I think homework wise, I think this is public information. So for the public, if I wanted to do homework, what would I find this?
Yeah, it was meeting minutes. It was, and quite often with the meeting minutes, you just have summaries of the meetings and voting decisions. Mm-hmm. So following that, we've actually done a lot more in the past year and a half that I've been on council. We've done a lot more to make that more accessible for folks. That was part of it. Part of it was I started researching what other countries and what other states were doing, other jurisdictions, which was actually a lot of fun putting those policies together and see like, okay, what do we already have? Mm-hmm. What's something that we have a version of and what are we lacking? I got people together and formed groups to have these conversations. Maybe there's things that I'm missing, bringing people to the right table. Honestly, probably the biggest part of my job is having the right people in the same room together. I'm kind of just a union builder.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You bring these people together and then great ideas come of it and then you make it happen.
So, I mean, you assembled your team. What was that looking like? Like, talk about that. I know, and I know that you're involved. You was doing Rotary, and you're doing, all these different things. So, talk a little bit about that. That part of the process of building a, I guess, coalition or just thought leaders or grouping to ask ideas. Because I think that's a great. Like, if I was gonna run, and I'm not unofficial mayor of Mason. If I was gonna run, I would build my like A team. You know, like. I got my strategy person, I got my comms person, I got my research person, because I know I can't do everything. And definitely, my mindset has always been like, it's not me, it's we. Like, there's always someone that has complementary skills. Like, I could be the voice, but I need a brain, like all those things. So talk a little bit about building that team during the campaign part.
Yeah, a lot of it was almost like the policies I was working on too. So, part of my policy research was actually going back to my old papers that I wrote at Mason. Yes. And seeing like, hey, can I work on this now? Like, what does this mean? How does this translate? And so because Mason has such an influence on my life, I wanted to include it in my campaign. And so my campaign manager was actually at Mason doing communications work.
Who is it?
Her name was Maddie Godfrey. She graduated.
Oh, yeah.
So Maddie was my campaign manager a couple years ago.
So you've been, and then my man Hugh was with you, right?
Yeah, Hugh, he came to support me at events. Teresa, who had just started at Mason, we actually got connected on LinkedIn because we both lived in Hawaii and worked for the state Senate.
So you're building this thing of a collection of people.
Yeah, and I want opportunities for people to grow, and I could offer that now. It was like, hey, if you wanted a position or internship that you wanted to add to your resume.
Yeah, there you go. You can get some concrete experience doing comm from my campaign.
Exactly.
That you can put campaign for Anthony Amos. And she actually ran social media or something like that, right?
Exactly. And, I get how it is, how the job market can be. And so I'm like, you don't have to be an intern. Call yourself a policy analyst.
And it's not lying.
Because
you actually did policy analyst.
Exactly. Gotcha. Exactly. And so George Mason played a key role in that. And, that was just foundational. And then, of course, my wife, you have the people close to you. Because what they tell you is keep the circle of people that you trust in politics, small.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just keep expanding, keep growing. Actually, Tom Davis gave me such good advice, and he was a big supporter of mine and still is. One of the things he told me after I won was, I want you to remember one thing. Every room you walk into, everyone's a friend. You let other people draw the lines for you.
Yeah.
And
With their actions, people show you who they are.
Yeah. And so, don't take things to heart, but at the same time, it shows you being attentive and responding to things. So yeah, if someone did me dirty, I'm not going to make a big deal of it, but now I know.
Mental note, you show me who you are.
Exactly. And so the key circle of people that I trust, of course, my family, my wife, some of my old coworkers that I worked with that I know are politically knowledgeable, but also you want people who balance you out. So I know how strongly I feel on things like, for example, affordable housing, but maybe it's sometimes you need a person to balance you out or help refine your message. Having those people on board too that can challenge you and make you think more critically and can bring up points that maybe you don't have a counter for yet, so you can have a more broad conversation. And that's something that I feel was a benefit that I learned working for both political parties.
Now, one thing I thought about too is like pay to play. I mean by that is I've learned campaigning and running is expensive. 100%. And you're doing it from a just recently graduated grad student. You're not no big businessman and all that. So talk a little bit about how did you get this opportunity and how would you encourage someone at the grassroots level to fund their campaign without losing themselves and getting lost in the sauce?
Yeah, it's so interestingly enough, even though I was a new candidate, I ended up raising the most money out of everyone last time, including the mayoral candidates. A big reason for that was I was working for a politician and I had contacts, so I don't want to say I started from scratch.
Yeah, pull myself up. But
I knew the key strategies, and I made sure to make it very clear, like, hey, this is my campaign. I'm going to do my own thing, but that doesn't mean you don't seek out advice. And so a lot of it was calling. You call people, and I think the hardest part for especially new candidates, but candidates in general, is making the ask. Like, you have no idea who might actually be willing to give money to you until you ask.
And in worst case scenario, they say no.
Exactly. But, we have this kind of idea that if we ask, it makes us sound needy or
desperate, thirsty, all those things. Yeah.
But that's actually not how it is. When you're asking for someone to invest in you in a campaign, that is something completely different. That's, hey, I have these policies. There's a change I want to do. I want to be a person of influence. I want to help people. People want to invest in things like that.
Yeah.
And so being willing to make the ask is the hardest part, but that's the most important thing. And that goes for family, friends. That's usually who they tell you to call first. You get a list of family and friends that you reach out to. And if you look at my donation list, it's people that I know, people that I work with. It's less people of random people that I met or cold called.
Yeah, I think so. Then you basically have like your own CRM, and you hit the phones. Like you also hit the doors. So you have to do that's a lot of labor.
Yes.
Time. So you're gonna say, rather than I like to say this is kind of what the advancement people say for like. I will fight for the $20 multiple times than the home run, $50,000.
Exactly.
That a bunch of 20s adds up.
Yeah.
Is that your thought about that?
100%. I mean, if you look at my donor list, typically, and it's on VPAP, but
yeah, once again, transparency, right? You have to be, you can
we have campaign filing reports. You can look up what I raised, who donated to me.
Yeah.
If you look on VPAP, majority of my donations come from $100 or less, not $101 and over. And of course, you want both because
you want to hit some home runs.
And to your point, it is expensive. It can be extremely expensive, especially if you're going to do mailers. Mailers are the most.
I've learned the game. I'm learning the game about is that print is crazy, man.
Print's crazy, man. And I mean, even just for mailers, like for a jurisdiction the size of the city of Fairfax, which is about 6 point something miles and about 8,000 something households.
Yeah.
Each mailer is about $2,500 to $3,000.
Yep, I heard about that.
And so, I raised $30,000 last time. I spent everything to keep the momentum going, to do all these events, to get connected with people. And they always tell you want at least 3 touches for each person. So door knocking, mailers, email lists, calls, it's everything. Text.
Isn't there a platform now where you can do like robo-text too?
Yes, there's a few different platforms.
So like you basically you don't have to like .com is in there, getting your house. So talk a little bit about like I know the door knocking, man. You was out there, you had to get new shoes. Talk about that part because you did the mailers, you got the budget. Talk a little bit about that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, door knocking, not everyone agrees with this. I love door knocking. I think door knocking is fun. It's exhausting though. So
if you gamified it, I guess, turn it into like I'm gonna take this many steps a day or something. I don't know.
I'll say mostly fun. I did. So I wore out the shoes. I had a pair of shoes and ended up wearing them out. The soles were gone. They were super uncomfortable. So I ended up going over to Burlington, and coincidentally, they had these blue and orange shoes, which are my campaign colors. So I was like, oh, that's a sign. I'm gonna grab these. But I ended up buying a scooter, and that was actually advice I got from Senator Salim. So he ended up using a scooter on his campaign. He got a motorized one. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go old school, Razor. Go for my Razor scooter. I might regret that decision, but added some charm to the campaign. I wanted the campaign to be a lot of fun, and so I wanted to make it enjoyable. But the door knocking aspect, I door knocked every weekday night and most Saturdays from July until November.
So you had a and let me that's a lot of homes, 8,000. You had to just be organized. Like, how did you map it out? Like, you had like a little like old school full map. Like, how did you make your routes for that, Jam?
Yeah, it's pretty much park somewhere and walk, man.
Okay, just pick a new neighborhood and just walk. Like, how did you?
You can buy lists from the state, and that's usually recommended. Or you bring on a campaign advisor, or consultant, and they can help you like generate a system or map, which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the most part, it was we're gonna park our car and we're gonna walk as many doors as we can within these couple of hours and see what we can do. And then, I mean, even Saturdays, man, I was not door knocking 8 hours a day. So it was like doing a full shift, and then you work 9 to 5, and then from 5:30 until about 8 o'clock, 8:30, I'm door knocking.
So just anecdotally, what do you think was the percentage of people actually opening their home and talking to you?
I'd probably say it depends on the day.
Okay.
If the weather's bad, usually people are home.
Yes.
But generally, I think the rule of thumb is probably about 1/3 to 1 in 5.
What was one of the most interesting conversations you had where you opened the door? Let me give some preference. I actually met James Walkinshaw because he door knocked, and I opened the door, and I was like, "Hey, what you doing?" I didn't even know nothing about him. He was I was in my townhouse before I moved to my house up in when he was running for Braddock District supervisor. Knocked on my door. He's like, "I'm James Walkinshaw." I'm like, "Okay." We talked, and I was like, "Oh, you're a local politician." He's like, "You want to be on my podcast?" And so that was my episode with him because he door knocked, and I got his email, and then we stayed in touch. And then I asked him, "How do you get involved?" So he actually, shout out to him, he got me, learning a little bit about local politics through that podcast and all that. But it was through the interaction of door knocking. He knocked on my door. Yeah. So I could say that is a memorable story. What's one door knocking one?
And Congressman Walkinshaw now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. I didn't think about that. Yeah. So.
But
and it's pre-pandemic. It must have been like 18 or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember when it was.
It would have been 18 because they only had a year before they got stuck with the pandemic. So I think they ran 18 and started 19.
Okay, that's when he must have knocked on my door then. Yeah. That's crazy. I got to look at the podcast when I did it. But yeah.
But one of the things that I highlighted during the campaign was there was a number of people, and it kind of staggered me a little bit because it is a local race. There were just so many people who said, "Oh, I've actually never met anyone who was seeking office before." And I'm like, you have an election every year, but it made me realize that there's just so many people who sometimes get left out or get left behind. And it was unfortunate, especially like apartment renters and renters in general, which is half of the population in our city. But I mean, I've been told, and I won't say who said this, but I've been told before that when I asked, "Hey, how come you didn't knock at my apartment complex when I was living at Layden Hall?" I was told, "Well, there's not enough voters there."
Yeah, and it wasn't part of the game. It wasn't
part of the game.
So it's like, I think that is the ugly part about politics is that sometimes it is too gamified.
Yes.
And people, once again, electoral college, and we'll talk about, this stuff is like, people will say, "Oh, that state is not enough points for me, so I'm not going to talk to him." And that's where I think we had this disillusion about, like, some of it is gamified too much. Yeah. Where I was like, "Yo, I'm not going to waste. I'm not going to get enough points."
Exactly.
And they're like, "Dang,"
And I think you see that through the underrepresentation of certain populations.
Yeah.
Like even the city of Fairfax, which you would consider probably a more liberal and maybe even progressive area. My understanding is that I'm the first apartment renter ever to serve on city council. I'm also only the second African American man ever. The first one in over
check. Yeah, for sure.
first one in over 50 years. We just elected our first ever African American woman, and you would think that Northern Virginia would have been more ahead, quote unquote, but it's not the case. And
Well, I think it reiterates the class system of
Yes.
politics too. Meaning, I joked, I said, "Oh, you're a grad student," but most times people think like most politicians, let's go to the macro, and we said we went to Congress. Look at all the occupations of members in Congress. There's very few like a teacher, a random ass teacher, or there's a high school principal or a scientist, just the randoms. They're mostly like business people.
yes,
People with lots of money. I'm gonna kind of do that. I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole and see like what are the occupations. Now, one, I think sometimes the intersection with roles is because they have the flexibility to be a politician, right?
Yes.
Like
your job needs to be on board.
Yeah.
'Cause if they're not, you can't do it.
yeah, because I'm knowing from local, like, this is like a stipend thing. Like you got to have a 9 to 5. So if you don't have a 9 to 5 that has flexibility to be in those seats, then you're not. So like, if you're, I know of a lot of guys that are, in the state legislative that are lawyers because they have billable hours. They can afford to, go down to session and then work their lawyer job.
Exactly.
But you might not have a school teacher because they can't take off school. So there's certain occupations that kind of block even getting involved.
Yeah, 100%. And then you look at the pay scales. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's a kind of a running joke in the city, but like city council, we make $12K. You can't live off of that, especially
No.
not in Northern Virginia.
No.
But I mean, even if you go to the state level, the state just changed. They just increased their pay, but they were at $24K. I'm like, that's the stipend of the planning commission for Fairfax County.
Yeah.
And now they just increased it to 55, I believe.
Yeah, so to make a living, that's not your job. Like you got to have a real 9 to 5. Thus, like you said, there might not be many renters.
Exactly.
There might be people that have family money, generational wealth, enough wealth to fund their own. So it's like sometimes there's this pay to play part that disillusions or makes it seem like people in politics are in the ivory tower.
Yes, and I think you see when you go to that pay-to-play component, you see more people who are willing to just maintain a status quo, even if they know something's wrong.
Yeah, because they don't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I compare that to, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this at some point, but in the city of Fairfax, the way we operate our trash, we have trash built into the tax rate, and we're one of the only jurisdictions that still does that. A lot of people have transitioned away from it, including City of Falls Church. Reason being is everyone loves trash service in the city. They love how it operates. It's on time. It's managed by the city. They don't need a private company like American or Republic. But it's only for single-family homes and townhomes. Apartment renters and apartment complexes have a contract with private haulers like American. And I know this because I used to live at Layden Hall. But they're still charged because it's built into the tax rate for trash service from the city.
So like you're paying taxes on a thing that you don't get the benefit from.
Exactly. And so in reality, apartment complexes and apartment renters are subsidizing trash for single family homes.
Yeah.
And, that's things that won't get addressed if you never have an apartment renter on city council.
Right. Yeah.
Because no one wants to break that.
Well, no one wants to break it, but also no one. I mean, let's say naive, like in a naive way, they won't even know because they're not experiencing it.
Exactly.
So
you can't.
It's not an issue for me, so I don't think about it.
And you can't have the conversation if no one knows about it. That's the thing.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So diversity of perspective, diversity of experience matters in these spaces to have like, whoa. Did y'all think about X, Y, and Z from this perspective?
For sure.
What is one of the things, as you've navigated local government that, let's say, you come back and you talk to kids all the time. When I say kids, like you come back and talk to Mason students all the time.
Yeah.
What is one thing where you're like, y'all going to learn this, but y'all not going to learn this for real unless you see it on the other side? What is one of the hidden curriculums of local government that no matter how much you theorize or you talk about it or do poli-sci, they will not experience or understand this until they're in those spaces?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I would probably say being on the other side of some of the more negatively charged rhetoric that you see, it can be interesting. I mean, you see it in the media and you sometimes talk about it in class and in school. But, when you're attacked by a campaign or attacked by residents, not physically, but,
Yeah.
verbally and politically, and you have to adjust and kind of choose your strategy and it's all on you. I think that's a very unique experience that you don't really get unless if you're either working on a campaign very closely or it's you. And in general, like a couple years ago, I got attacked in mailers and things like that. I've never had that happen to me before. And that was such an odd experience.
Was it jarring a little bit?
It was, yeah, because, it was things that I know weren't true, but simultaneously I'm like, okay, I'm not the type of person to counter negative with negative. I don't like that.
I'm not gonna clap back.
No, but the thing is like, okay, I should say something, but I don't want it to be negative because that's just not how I am. That's not the type of campaign I want to run. How do I navigate that? And that's something I kind of had to figure out on the fly with my core team is like, how do I maintain my own integrity and my own well-being
While telling the truth.
while telling the truth, but making sure it's effective. It's such a challenging thing, especially because the negativity is just so easy to replicate and grow compared to wanting to run something positive. And I ended up doing a positive counter, which ended up working really well. But it was a jarring experience, and it's not just larger things like that. It can be getting yelled at while door knocking at someone's door.
Yeah.
That can be a little disorienting, especially for the first time. You get used to it, but it's something that you're not prepared for until it happens.
And I was wondering, yeah, I could see that. Like, and then you're like, are you able to like now think more stoically? Like, it's not me, it's the system that they're yelling at.
Correct.
Like, you and your lawmakers, and you're like, okay, it's not me. They're mad at the system.
Well,
which is
the
understandable.
amount of time, and you got to learn to let things go.
Yeah.
Which was something I really struggled with in the beginning because I tend to take things to heart, not in a bad way, but just because I'm just like I consider myself an emotional person. I want to help, but there are instances where you got to just be able to take the hit and move on.
You grin and bear it.
Yeah, like I'll knock on someone's door, they'll be like Democrat or Republican, and I'll tell them independent, and they're like whatever, and they just slam the door in your face. And
Right.
it's like hey, I don't hold that against you, and I still represent those people too. And so you can't get bogged down by every single thing. And I think that's one of the toughest things about being an elected official is that's something you have to learn. You often have to make decisions that sometimes aren't popular, that people don't like. And if you cave just because you want to be liked on everything, you're never going to make true progress.
I mean, I'll be honest, like, I think it might be more freeing to be a more independent, what's it called, underdog. Because, like, I would say this once again. I'm saying I'm not running. There's not no announcement on this podcast, but like, if I know that I'm just doing it to help and have a voice, I don't really care if I get reelected or not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, I'm just going to do my thing with one term and see what happens, as opposed to those that have that political, what's it called, a career politician mindset, where they have to like always toe back and forth. But if you're like, man, I'm just happy to be here this one time.
Yeah.
That might be more freeing. I don't know. Is that your mindset, or was that your mindset, or what?
Yeah. It's obviously I do want to get reelected. I would love to keep serving the community. Simultaneously, if I make that the core of who I am, of either trying to get reelected all the time or build myself up for higher positions, then I become what I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I become what I'm fighting.
Yes.
And so, even though a lot of people tell me I sound like a politician, I try not to act like one. I want to, at least like a career politician. When people ask me, it's like, hey, when are you going to go for this position or that position? I'm like, I'm not focused on that right now. Like, I want to do what I can to the best of my ability for City of Fairfax. I have ideas that I want to work on. I want to see those through. And the future is going to be whatever the future is.
Yeah. So you think, I would assume, I guess there is people that, like anything, like they go into a space and they're already like, my next ladder is this. Or there's people that are like, hey, I'm just going, what's right in front of my face. And if whatever happens, happens.
Well, sorry. No. There's some people who are, they run for office, get into position, and they just kind of disappear until it's either time for re-election or
Yeah.
they want to go on for something else. I never wanted to be like that. I'm like, I've been volunteering. I've always been about public service. That's not going to change just because I'm an elected. That I did that not to be because I wanted to do that, not because I wanted to get elected. And
Right.
that's the mindset that I want to approach this with, because there's a big difference between campaigning and governing.
Yes.
Those are two very different mindsets. And if you merge them together, I think you get a lot of what you see today.
Yeah.
A lot of that negatively charged rhetoric.
You're outside a lot. I mean, you ain't got no kids, so that's probably why.
Yeah,
Now,
it'll probably change.
I see you. You're like, and you know, I see you on the LinkedIn. You're going ribbon cuttings and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
How do you dictate? You know, like you can't be everywhere. You're not. Was it omnipresent? So
Yeah.
how do you determine your weekend schedule for all these like ribbon cuttings and all these things? How do you navigate just being outside but at a balance?
That's a work in progress.
Okay.
I've always struggled with work-life balance. I've always leaned more towards work, which is something I've needed to work on for a while. And I have, I did therapy a couple years ago as a part of it. A lot of it is you need to be able to preserve your mental health. And the city is never short on events or things
Not
to
at
do
all.
ever.
No, go on Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
events, City
Yeah.
of Fairfax.
And I'm glad that I have your reputation that I'm everywhere. I think a
You
lot
outside.
I try to stay active. Simultaneously, I've had to set rules for myself to slow myself down,
Yeah.
to make sure that I don't get overwhelmed or over encumbered. And so, for example, my wife and we had a conversation. She said Saturdays, no phones and no events.
Yeah, okay.
So Saturdays are for church and then spending time together.
You do the
Not Saturdays, Sundays.
I was about to say you do the Saturday church. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
no,
Sunday
Sundays.
church.
Yeah, but so Sundays is just that.
Okay.
Monday evenings, I do flag football, and so that's my time. So I need to make sure I have pockets that are dedicated for just me, and I live and die by my calendar.
I was about to say you had to plan out the week ahead of time.
Yeah,
Then.
so I have like 6 different calendars that I have to merge into one that I keep on my iPhone, and so
And then it has different things like this is related to my identity here, my identity here.
exactly.
Different calendars.
And so, and I check it daily, honestly, probably hour by hour, just to make sure, hey, I'm on track. Did I miss something, or is there something I need to move? Maybe I need some time for me. But at the same time, I'm getting a better sense of how I operate, what my energy level is like, and what I can handle. And so having those breaks and resets helps me get through the day a lot easier.
One of my last questions, and we'll just kind of tail it. Has there ever been a time where you've been in a space now and you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm here? Whether it's like, I mean, you already met Bill Clinton or all this stuff. Like, I don't know. But has there ever been like most recently, have you been like, wow, I'm in what's it called? Fairfax County, and I see all these board of supervisors. What am I doing here? Whatever. I don't know. Tell me, is there a time like that?
Yeah, quite a bit. It happens pretty often for me. Like whenever I go to an event and I get recognized as the council member Amos, or I wear a sticker that says the honorable, it hasn't fully settled for me yet, just because it's kind of weird having that kind of title. But an interesting story was we were working on in the city. We were working on an application for funding, entitlement funding from not entitlement funding, but funding from Congressman Walkinshaw's office from the federal level for a public safety building. And I remember I was just chilling at home, relaxing, and I got a call from the congressman. And I was like, oh, hey there, Congressman. He said, Councilman, can you help me with X, Y, and Z? And I was like, sure, I got you. And everything worked out. We got our application submitted on time, all that good stuff. And it made me realize, like, oh, I'm like...
Someone can pick up the phone and call me, and I'm talking to the people like that.
Yeah, but it's also like I'm like a go-to for him in the city of Fairfax, because we have that kind of relationship. And that's something that was kind of newer for me, was like, oh, wow, I'm getting a call from a federal congressman
Yeah.
for my assistance. Like
On my real phone, my personal phone.
yeah, and so it kind of caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, I'm here. I'm becoming something
in that
on a
space,
more fundamental, on a more fundamental level. And so that was just interesting. It hasn't fully settled. I don't know if it ever will. Maybe I'll get used to it, but it's just I'm just grateful to be here.
I love it. I like that's my line too. I'm like, I'm just happy to be here.
I'm like,
that's crazy.
Hey, all glory to God, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think about that. Like I could, I notice like I think about this too. Is like there's only like certain people see you as just, oh, that's my man Anthony, and That's cool. And like I think about like certain spaces where I'm like, in this space it means something, but somewhere else no one cares. So like for instance, proud member Alpha Phi Alpha, right? My general president, like the guy that's the president of this, in other spaces they don't care. They could care less. Oh, God, great, you're president of a national fraternity. But in other spaces, we're like, I got like 4 presidents on my phone. And I'm like, and I text them every now and then. I'm like, what? Like, it did hit me. Like, I'm texting national presidents, like, but then at the flip side, that it brings you, grounds you. It's like, but then at the same time, they're just people too.
Exactly.
And so I think that's a very interesting mindset.
Well, I always told people, I'm like, I want to be president one day, but the fact that I'm in this space where I have go-to conversations with congressmen and with senators and all that stuff, it's kind of freaky. So I was like, I just feel blessed. And to your point, like I have my core friends who honestly, they kind of make fun of me for being a councilman, but that's my friend group. I love them. And that's just our humor. But then I have this whole other pocket, and it feels like sometimes I'm like 2 different people.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, when I go home, my kids don't care that I work at Mason. They can care less. My wife don't. Did you do the dishes? Like, dang, like you come home from like a board meeting or whatever, councilman, your wife is like, you didn't take out the trash. Like, dang, I still got a boss at home, my wife. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes, sir.
So certain people will not see you as that. And I think that's also a good thing, right? That's that circle part where like you don't need to be all this. You just be yourself in these spaces, and then not say switch up, but you understand that identity is. It's positionality. Your positionality changes in certain rooms.
Yeah, but I think you can still do that while being authentic.
100%. Yeah. So this is the part of the show called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I go first.
Ooh, you go first.
All right. So flag football. I'm gonna do 2. What is your position you like to play, and then who is your favorite? What's your favorite football team at any level, college or NFL?
So currently in flag football, I'm actually playing quarterback.
Okay.
Which is a newer thing for me, and I'm actually really enjoying it.
You're slinging that thing.
A little bit,
Okay.
A lot of running with it.
Okay, let me ask this. Okay, if when you're saying flag football and you're quarterback, who would you say you model your game after, or if someone looked after, like short passes like Jeff Garcia? What?
I like Jeff Garcia.
Remember Jeff Garcia had that reputation. He would never throw the ball more than 20 yards or whatever.
Yeah, I wish I could be like, I'm like Tom Brady, man, but now I'm probably like a Kyler Murray.
Okay, just
a lot of lot of running and dunking, bro. Favorite football team always will be the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay, let's bring that, like a person that lived all over the country, all over the world, military. How did that become your team?
So my dad's side of the family is from Ohio. And my uncle used to actually play for the Ohio State.
Done deal. There it is. Go Buckeyes. All right. What's your question for me?
All right. So what do you do for fun? What's your free time look like? When you have it.
Well, I was about to say, like, after I'm getting surgery on my neck, because I have like a disc. But what I used to love, and I'm trying to get back to it, was powerlifting.
Oh wow.
I used to like lift big heavy weights, and now I don't think I'm gonna get to that level of powerlifting, but like I still like that. And one of my goals is I'm starting to build little equipment, because I am going to train my 2 sons like LeVar Ball. They're going to make the league. So that is going to be a hobby that I'm bringing back. I used to be into it, lifting weights, but like I'm going to definitely use that as a way to like bond with my sons.
Well, I got to ask, heaviest weight you lifted, man?
Okay, squat was 425.
Oh.
Deadlift was 578.
Dang.
Bench, I couldn't cross the plateau. It was like 295. I just couldn't get over 300. So those are things. And those are the powerlifting ones. I didn't really like the Olympic lifts like snatch or... Okay. I think I could power clean. 255.
Man.
I was doing it. I was jacked. Let me phrase. I was like non-athletically looking strong. Like,
gotcha.
So like I used to go to powerlifting meets, and I would be in the 181. And when you do powerlifting, you have to like do your openers, like bench, whatever, and say what it was. And they'd always be like, who is this guy Wilkerson think he's going to open with a deadlift of 475? And I would walk up behind him and be like, oh yeah, that's me. And they would look at me like, this guy? Get out of here. And then I would do it.
Yeah.
And so I was the most unassuming strong legs. But Yeah, that's something I want to get back into, and I want to do it once again. I think now most of my hobbies have like I know there should be like my time, me, but I think most of my hobbies are gonna be like intersecting with my sons.
Yeah.
One, because I don't know, I just want to have that thing to bond with them, and two, like I don't know, it's just been dope. Like I like say football. I love watching football.
Yeah.
My son loves football times two. So getting to do that with him is, my oldest, that's dope. My youngest, he's a wrestler. I don't know nothing about no wrestling, but he likes to watch the WWF. He likes to watch that kind of wrestling too.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to watch WWF back in the day. So now I get to share that with him. So I don't know. As a father of two boys, I tell my wife I won. Too bad she's a girl, she's a boy mom. And I got these two little mini clones that like to do the stuff I like to do. And so those are my hobbies.
Oh, that's fun.
Intersecting.
And I will tell you, wrestling was the best shape I was ever in my life.
Oh, you did that wrestling too?
When I was in high school. Yeah.
Okay, what pound?
I started off at 145, and then I was in the 152 weight class.
And you had to do that in Hawaii? No, that's Germany.
No, just Germany.
Germany. This is an international school?
It was military.
Okay.
Yeah, but then when I messed up my knee, when I tore my ACL, I just couldn't really shoot the same anymore. So I let wrestling go.
But, okay, so when you were in Germany in high school, what was it? Frankfurt? What was the name of the city that you were near?
So I spent a lot of time in Wiesbaden and Baumholder, Baumholder was near Ramstein.
Okay, all right. All right, I know like Heidelberg. I know the words. I don't know where they are.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is the part of the show. This is a great episode. Now, this is the part, that you can do shout-outs and plugs. Shout-outs, show love to anyone you want to show love to, and then plugs. These are things that I'll make sure to put in the show notes for listeners to engage with you and stay in touch.
Yeah, just shout out to my mom and dad. Love y'all. Shout out to my wife, the smartest person. She's the main cog that drives the ship. Shout out to Maddie, my former campaign manager, and shout out to the new George Mason interns who are actually joining the campaign this year. I won't say their names yet because,
Yeah.
But they'll be publicized soon enough.
Well, I love the fact that you're bringing Mason back in and giving them an opportunity. So paying it forward.
Yeah, pay it forward. And then, if people want to follow what I'm doing, you can go to anthonytamos.org, which is my website, my campaign website, my LinkedIn, Famous Amos Perez, same for my Instagram. And then Facebook, you can just look me up. I have two different pages, my personal city council one and then my campaign page.
Excellent. Well, this has been a great episode. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Anthony, for sharing your time. Positive Philter listeners, know that every episode is dedicated to the memory of my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund for the work that he did fighting food insecurity during his career. Secondly, if you're a member of the Mason Nation, please consider submitting a Pats for Patriots. It is a kindness program where you can send a nice e-card to anyone affiliated with George Mason. As you know, elevating this episode, give it a like, subscribe, a rating or review will elevate this. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.